Hey guys, I'm on this very unique, different, and a very interesting road trip that I've been planning to do for a long time now. And finally, I've got an opportunity. As you can see, I'm all belted up. I'm going to be going to 5 destinations in northern Tamil Nadu. Of course, one of them is in Andhra. And why is it unique and different? Because, as you know, the gross body is made up of 5 elements: the air, earth, water, fire, and space. And I was amazed to find out that each of these destinations, together they call the Panchabhootasthalam, has a very old and ancient Shiva temple dedicated to each of them. If you go to Kalahasti, which is in Andhra, there's one dedicated to air, and then after that to Kanchipuram, dedicated to earth, and then Tiruvannamalai, which is for fire element, and then finally to Chidambaram, which is for the space element, and then of course the last one, which is Kovil, which is for the water element. And each of them has some special things to share, and I'm going to see them and probably share it with you. Actually, there's a strange incident from way back in my childhood that is deeply embedded in my memory. I remember as kids we used to go to Tirupati pretty often, and on one of those visits I visited the Shri Kalahasti temple along with my father, and I distinctly remember when I was in the sanctum of that temple, I just lost my breath. It was very strange. I couldn't breathe, as if my windpipes had choked, and I ran out and I was gasping for breath, and I could breathe easy only till I came outside. And several years later is when I read about this temple and its connection with the air element, and I found it, wow, there must be something to it, something magical, something divine. And that's what intrigued me, and that was the reason for this trip. And I thought there must be some other secrets to unravel, because if each temple is connected to one element, there's surely something to find out. It's a beautiful morning to drive out. It's bright and sunny, and it's not too hot. It's beautiful. The highways are, as always, great in India to drive around. Road trips are so beautiful. I'm on the Chittoor highway towards Tirupati. Of course, I'm going to skip Tirupati and proceed straight to Kalahasti. I'm going to enter Tamil Nadu from the north, actually. Bangalore to Kalahasti is around 240 odd kilometers. So I'm inside the Kalahasti temple, where the Lord Shiva or Shivji is worshipped as in the Vayu Tattva, and they say that his breath is worshipped as a lingam over here, and that's specific because in spite of the air not being there, the flame actually shakes. You can actually see that inside, and of course they don't allow the camera there, but that's the importance of the Vayu Tattva, or the air factor, or the air element. Hi, so just finished my visit to the Shri Kalahasti temple. Interesting 1500-year-old temple built around the original linga, and then, kind of redone during the Chola period apparently. But the name Shri Kalahasti signifies, Shri means for the spider, Kala means Nag, and Hasti means elephant, and these 3 were granted moksha by Lord Shiva over there, therefore the name Shri Kalahasti. But of course my interest was in the air element or the Vayu element. A very interesting fact I noticed over there, in the sanctum, all the flames are absolutely still except 2 which alternately flicker. And that apparently happens because of the breath of Lord Shiva, and this is the breath which turns into the Vayu for the universe. That's what the story goes. But it's an amazing thing to just watch. Only 2 which flicker alternately, and that is happens because of Shiva's breath, they say. So as I drive southwards towards Kanchi and I enter Tamil Nadu, I've decided to skip the express highway and take the inner rural roads, the country roads. Even they're beautiful. I quite honestly prefer these roads. Look at this goat not moving from I prefer these roads because they really give you a hint of what the pace in rural India is all about, and they are very beautiful. There are small villages, there are children going out to school, there are people going about with their tasks, whatever that is, and there are beautiful green fields around. There is paddy, there is sugarcane, the topography's got some hills. I'm parallel basically to the Bay of Bengal on my left, and generally I prefer these kind of roads. It gives you a hint of what the pace of the real India is all about inside in the road. So this is the beautiful Gambareshwar Temple or Gambareshwar Temple in Kanchipuram. Of course, Kanchipuram is more known for its silk and all that, but This temple is basically the second one, which is called the based on the Prithvi Tattva. This is one we are inside the Gambareshwar Temple, entering the sanctum of the temple. Oh, this temple is absolutely grand. It was first built around the original lingam by the Pallavas, then Cholas, then after that even the Vijayanagar Empire did a lot to maintain this temple. All these walls in the background and gopurams etc. are built by the different kings. So I just finished my visit at the Gambareshwar Temple at Kanchi. A superlatively grand temple, 1400 year old structure, built first by the Cholas, followed by the Pallavas, and then the Vijayanagar Empire kings added their own glory to the temple. It's just amazing. I always knew Kanchi was an important center in line with Mathura and Kashi, but I didn't know the earth connect. Apparently the earth connect is because Goddess Parvati built the lingam over here with her own hands in sand and mud, and therefore Shiva is worshipped here in the earth format. And of course, Gambareshwar Nath comes from the word one mango tree, which exists for 3,500 years old. From there it gets the name Gambareshwar. Phenomenal temple. So I'm basically heading now towards interior Tamil Nadu, almost center of North Tamil Nadu, and I'm going towards Tiruvannamalai in search of the third element, which is the fire element, apparently, which is worshipped over there. Shiva as the fire element. And as luck would have it, its sun is coming down and the ball of fire right in front of me. Okay, so I'm entering, as the board says, the temple city of Tiruvannamalai in search of the third element, which is the fire element. But Tiruvannamalai is also very famous for another thing. It is the ashram of Ramana Maharshi, famous spiritualist Ramana Maharshi, at the Arunachalam hill. The walk is supposed to be magical. Visiting the ashram is great. And of course, the Arunachaleshwaram temple, the Shiv temple. This journey or this visit is on. And this is the Arunachaleshwar temple at Tiruvannamalai. And this is dedicated, they say, to the fire element, to the Agni Tattva. This temple, you can probably see the Arunachal hill behind. The tradition is to circumambulate the entire hill, and this is the 1,000 pillars hall. So this behind me is the main temple. Apparently the reason why the fire element or the Agni Tattva is worshipped over here is because, come what may, the temperature inside is always warm, and apparently the Shivalinga vibrates and emanates an energy which keeps it warm regardless of temperature outside, and therefore the celestial form of Shiva is worshipped in the fire element format. Today I drive towards the town of Chidambaram. The Chidambaram Nataraja Temple, which is there in this town, is very famous for the fact that the divine element of space is worshipped here as Lord Shiva. Interesting. Let's see. Usual road trip hassle, a puncture. I'm lucky I'm in a town, which is fine because roadside assistance is pretty convenient. And the other thing is that I have tubeless tires. It makes a lot of sense. Takes you for another 10 or 15 kilometers to the nearest bunk at least. Interesting. These kind of incidents make the road trip even more richer. This young man is going to be taking both the tires, fill nitrogen in it and get it back. Till then, I'm going to be waiting. So this is the most mind-blowing Chidambaram Nataraja temple of Shiva. Again, a huge 45 or 50 acre Dravidian architecture, first created around the original lingam by the Cholas, then Pallavas, then the Vijayanagara kings. Here, Lord Nataraja is worshipped in the formless state, and therefore this temple is dedicated to the Akash Tattva, or the space, divine element of space. And the divine element of the space is also connected to the ears, and I'm thinking that's probably the reason why music and dance and drum beats are very, very characteristic of this temple. Beautiful Akash Tattva. Okay, an interesting aspect about the Chidambaram Nataraja temple that I forgot to mention was how do you worship over there the sense of space. So what happens is there is a curtain which comes up at least 3 or 4 times in a day, and as the curtain goes up, there is nothingness, there is absolute darkness in there, just a couple of leaves hanging, and that represents space, which is nothingness, no beginning, no end. And that's the reason why this particular temple is worshipped in the space format, and space format is directly linked to our sense of hearing, and that's probably the reason why there are elaborate dance and music festivals in the Chidambaram Nataraja temple. Nataraja himself is the form of Shiva in a dancing form. He performs the Tandav Nritya apparently over here. And that's the significance, and that's how they portray the space element here. So this is the Jambukeshwa Temple, where Lord Shiva is worshipped as the divine element of water, the Jalatattva they call it, next to the Kaveri river. And apparently there's never a moment when the Shivalinga is not covered in water, ever. Okay, so this Thiruvannaikavil temple, which I just visited, it's an interesting temple. Here the divine element of water is worshipped as Lord Shiva, or Lord Shiva is worshipped in the water format, and therefore this temple is dedicated to the water element, or the Jalatattva. But the interesting aspect is that when you walk down, you got to walk down to visit the Shivalingam, and the Shivalingam is of course Swayambhu, but there is always a perennial source of water which keeps it wet, or even in the rainy season, the lingam is actually dipped inside water. And they say that when it is absolutely dry, when the river Kaveri, which runs next door, runs dry, even then there is a constant stream of water, and they haven't been able to find out where does that stream comes from, and that's the divine significance, and hence this place is worshipped for the water element. Okay, wanted to share a very interesting aspect about these divine elements and the 5 senses, and probably that's the reason I'm on this road trip. We experience the world through our 5 senses, and each of these divine elements correspond directly to at least one of the senses of ours, right? For example, the element of air corresponds directly to the sense of touch. The element of earth corresponds directly to the faculty of taste. The divine element of fire corresponds directly to the sense of vision, because of which we can see. And water corresponds to taste, and space corresponds to hearing. And you'll be really surprised, each of these elements makes that faculty work. So if there's no water, you cannot taste. If there's no space, you cannot hear. So I thought, these senses have been serving me perfectly through my life. So maybe this trip is a thanksgiving for all these senses and the divine elements. Thank you. अच्छा, इन 5 दिव्य तत्वों का एक बड़ा ही रोचक संदर्भ है जिसके बारे में मैं आपसे बात करना चाहता था। आप जानते हैं हमारी संसार की अनुभूति होती है 5 ज्ञान इंद्रियों से, और ये जो 5 दिव्य तत्व या मूल तत्व हैं, इनका सीधा सीधा जुड़ाव है एक एक इंद्रियों के साथ। या फिर आप ये कह सकते हैं कि प्रत्येक इंद्रिय का एक दिव्य अधिपति होता है, एक दिव्य तत्व। आप स्पर्श की अनुभूति कर सकते हैं वायु तत्व के कारण, आप सूंघ सकते हैं पृथ्वी तत्व के कारण, आप देख सकते हैं, देखने में आप सक्षम हैं अग्नि तत्व के कारण, आप कोई भी चीज, किसी चीज का स्वाद ले सकते हैं जल तत्व के कारण, और आप सुन सकते हैं आकाश तत्व के कारण। और बड़ा ही सीधा सीधा जुड़ाव होता है इसका। यदि ये तत्व ना हो तो इंद्रियां काम नहीं कर पाएंगी, अग्नि ना हो तो आप देख नहीं पाएंगे, जल तत्व ना हो तो आप स्वाद नहीं ले पाएंगे, तो मैंने सोचा इंद्रियां इतना काम देती हैं जिंदगी भर, क्यों ना इनकी अधिपतियों की थोड़ी आराधना हो जाए, इसीलिए रोड ट्रिप है।